We had some Big 12 action tonight. Texas Tech rolled. Kansas rolled. Baylor last night played in Stillwater at Oklahoma State, and they struggled. They got taken to overtime. RC, what do you make of this conference as a whole? Who do you think is the best team? I think we all agree Kansas is probably going to end up winning the conference, but who do you think is the best team? Who are you backing to make the deepest run of the tournament?
I'll say this: the team that's playing the best right now. If I'm not going to say Kansas, I'm going to say Texas Tech. I just think they're playing their best basketball to close the year. We know how strong they are defensively. I just like what they're doing right now, and so if I can't take Kansas, I'm going with Texas Tech.
I think that Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12, full stop. Like, I don't care what the records say. Texas Tech swept Baylor. They beat Kansas once, and they lost in double overtime the other game. And, needed a prayer 3 by Ochai Agbaji to even get to that double overtime period. They're just playing at a really high level, and they've done this all with Kevin McCullough in and out of the lineup, with Terrence Shannon in and out of the lineup. To me, this is the best team in the league. I mean, Bryson Williams is playing. I think Bryson Williams is the most forgotten about great player in college basketball right now. He is so efficient offensively. He's shooting like 45% from the 3. In addition to what he does on the block, he can switch defensively. He's really bought into that system. So they just have so many guys who can hurt you any night, right? Like today, Davion Warren leads them in scoring. Williams led them in scoring over the weekend. O'Banner had the 23 and 13 the other day to win them a game. Santos Silva comes in with 9 and 6 today off the bench. Shannon was going to get drafted if you stayed in the draft last year. McCullers led them in big games. So they have Adonis Arms won on the Baylor game in Waco, right? Like you just go through their whole rotation, 7 guys. Every one of them has been the guy in a big win for this team. They're dominating teams defensively right now. I think Texas Tech, man, I think they might be in the top 5 teams in the country right now, the top 5 teams to go win a national championship. I think they're the best team in the Big 12.
So here's my concern with Texas Tech, and I want both of you guys to weigh in on this. It's point guard play. Do they have a guy? We saw it at the end of the Texas game when Texas went on that 9-0 run to get it to a 1-possession game in the final minute. Do they have a good enough point guard? Do they have enough of a leader at that spot to be able to win? Sweeney, you go first.
I don't think that they do, but I think there's a lot of teams in that great tier of teams in college basketball that don't have a great point guard, right? Like right now, how much are we really trusting Wendell Green at Auburn, right? I mean, how much are we really trusting Jeremy Roach at Duke right now? I mean, again, maybe Wendell's playing point in big moments, but he's more of a combo, right? I mean, you just kind of go through Kansas. Is DeJuan Harris really the guy that instills fear? There is a dearth of elite point guards, and so for me, the fact that they have multiple guys who can create off the bounce, they have multiple guys who can switch and guard 1 through 4 in the backcourt. They're playing 6'5", 6'6" across the front, across the backcourt with McCullough, with Adonis Arms who can both create. I think that they have enough offensively, even without that true point guard. In addition to obviously the elite defense, where they can survive the fact that they don't have a guy who has the keys to and still win a championship.
Yeah, when you give up 42 points in a game, you don't have to be a great offensive team to be able to win. Also, RC, I don't know if you caught that, but Sweeney dropped a dearth on us. He loves busting out those Northwestern SAT words whenever he comes on After Dark. All right,
I was going to go and
dark.
try to
This
Google
is not after SAT prep, Sweeney.
My only concern with those guys with Texas Tech though is they got a lot of different guys that'll score, but who you going to go to when you really need a bucket? Like to close your game. Who's your closer? And you're right about great, they got a great defense, but as you start talking about making a Final Four run, you're going to play against some teams. You're not going to be able to force 21 turnovers like they did tonight. And, and they're not, they're going to be solid defensively, but they're not going to force as many turnovers tonight. You're going to play against some good teams that's going to protect the basketball, and they're going to force you to score.
All right, so let me ask you guys this then. Kansas has now won 4 in a row. They've won 6 out of 7 since they got smacked by Kentucky at home. And the only loss is by 3 at Texas, who, Texas is Texas. They're not great. They're not awful. I don't think that there's anything wrong with losing by 3 on the road to a team like Texas. So why aren't we talking more about Kansas? They are sitting here right now, today. They are number 5 in KenPom. They are 23-4 overall. They are 12-2 in the Big 12, and they're going to win this this regular season title without really, breaking a sweat. So RC, why aren't we talking more about Kansas as in that same tier of teams as we just mentioned, Gonzaga, Arizona, Auburn, Kentucky, whoever?
Baji's their best player. We all agree to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we see him getting drafted?
Probably late first, I would guess.
Right.
Someone will take that plunge.
And that was my point. We're accustomed to Kansas when they're at their best, when they're a team that we're thinking got Final Four potential, that has Final Four potential. We're thinking usually they got a lottery pick. They got a top 5 guy. And Agbaji, he's a shooter. He's a catch and shoot guy. He needs somebody to set him up, get him open. And I don't know if they're just overall, they're better than a lot of teams, obviously, but I don't have them quite as a Final Four team because I just don't think they have that guy. Agbaji's great. You get it in his hands, he's great, but he needs stuff ran for him. He's not a guy you can give the ball to and just say, hey, man, go get me a bucket. That's just not his game.
Right. And we've talked about this on the show before. I think obviously the inconsistencies at the point and the inconsistencies at the center position will rear their ugly head in big moments. I think DeJuan Harris has played much better basketball lately. He deserves credit. But their offense is so built around post touches for David McCormick, and David McCormick just has not been a consistent enough force for me to buy this team winning, 6 games and go winning a national championship. And I'll also say this, yes, they played good basketball lately, but their schedule has been about as light as it can be in the Big 12. It's still the Big 12. It's still a grind, but you had Kansas State at home, you had Oklahoma State at home, you had Oklahoma at home. You had a road trip to West Virginia. That's a West Virginia team that's really fading right now. The road game at Texas, you lost. You won the big one at home against Baylor, and you beat Iowa State on the road, a team that at that time was really, really slumping, right? Like, I don't know that Kansas winning 6 of 7 the way that they have is necessarily the statement that it would be normally in this conference, because they've had a pretty manageable stretch schedule. And look, they get to prove it on Saturday, right? They go into Waco. If they ball out in that game and they prove that beating Baylor as big as they did earlier in this month was not a fluke, then look, we're going to have to talk about this team and saying, look, it may not matter that they're not elite at the center position. It may not matter that they're not elite at the point guard position. It may not matter that Agbaji get the run of play for him down the stretch. They're just really good. But I think until I see that game, it's hard for me to see Kansas truly among those elite national title contenders right now.
I do like how you just kind of glossed over. Yeah, I know that they beat Baylor by 24 in Fog Allen.
Right, but that's one game. That's one game.
And you know what else is one game? Getting smacked by Kentucky at home. That's one game as well.